So let's start this off with something controversial. Demon Slayer is mid as fuck! Although the beginning feels like a form of clickbait, that is actually how I feel about Demon Slayer as a series. The only reason why I'm even bringing up Demon Slayer in the first place is because it lays into the point of the video. As fans of the anime, manga, even if you're only fans of the anime, you're still technically a fan of the manga because it's essentially the same stories with some mild variations, and obviously things are moving. The thing that really triggered this is that obviously the second season's currently airing now, and the movie came out and did gangbusters to a degree that blows anybody away. Any anime fans like, what the fuck? And if you watch the movie is insanely well animated. And even I'm not even mad at the arc in itself, because I remember reading the arc in the manga going, well, that actually works really well for a movie because it's a pretty short arc. Even though they still ended up cutting stuff out because it's not insanely short, but it's still short enough to where it works as a film. And then I thought about it and I went, well, that arc isn't anything special in the grand scheme of things. Not even in Demon Slayer is it really that special. So why the hell did it end up becoming the best-selling anime movie? I'm like, what the fuck? And then you realize, well, it's probably because of the animation. And it's something that humans don't want to acknowledge, but like sometimes quality animation has the ability to override the senses to the point where you were so visually blown away by a scene that you're not really judging it on the quality of the scene in itself, what's actually happening in the scene. You, as anime fans, and I'm gonna use a reference here, cubes. If you're as an anime fan, if you see cubes anywhere, we're in for some shit. There's a One Piece fan, there's a Naruto. If you see cubes, it's over. It's fucking over. And Demon Slayer doesn't have cubes, but it does have it has stellar animation and it looks beautiful. But when I look down in the grand scheme of things, it's nothing really going on in a sequence. I mean, the sequence that most people are going to talk about is the very end of the movie where the fight hits down. It's not like you're sitting there, well, wow, looking at the train, look at all the cargo seats, and look at all the passengers, and oh, look at the background as the train's moving. No one really gives a fuck about that. It's the, oh my god, there's fire and water and breathing and demons, and thousand punches and zoom around cameras, and you realize that it can elevate a scene into some god tier stuff when the fight in itself isn't that creative. When you realize the fight boils down to a couple slashes, a couple punches, and then a little struggle of strength, like, it doesn't sound that cool. And even when you read it in the manga, it's not that cool because it doesn't look nowhere near as good as this. And I very much believe Demon Slayer is a pure example of a show that literally was elevated purely because of its animation. Because if you looked at the story for what it is, and especially in the later arcs, it's fine. I would never call Demon Slayer a bad show, but I don't think it's absolutely amazing anyway. It's not coming up there towards the greats at all, but it's fine. It does well enough for what it is. But that anime adaptation came out and blew everybody away. Even if you thought the show was mid before, you almost had to sit down and re-question yourself like, bruh, am I lying to myself? I mean, this looks pretty fire. And it does, no pun intended. But it doesn't change what's going on in the arc. It doesn't change what's happening. But the anime can make things better and recontextualize certain situations that were way better in the anime that doesn't work in the manga, which can elevate arcs a couple of points. Now, I'm not talking about an arc goes from an F to a damn B or A, but, you know, if you're hanging in the C range, you might get ticked up to a B with some quality animation, and possibly an A because that range isn't as ridiculous. But is that a good thing? I mean, obviously it shows the quality and the joy of anime as a medium, because although not these days I probably read more manga than I watch anime, I still recognize the quality of a good animated episode. Because even if you're a manga reader, you know what most manga readers do? If it's a show that is really well animated, I think I've been watching King of Lightning do his Black Clover reactions. If it's a show that's really well animated, you're gonna go watch the anime version of that fight or interaction or whatever scene you're excited about, because there are just certain things that cannot be conveyed in anime that can be conveyed in manga. It's the same thing. It's how certain things can be conveyed in a book that may not be necessarily conveyed in like real life. Maybe text versus animation, or it's just two different mediums, and so you can get two different experiences. And let's be real here. If you've read Demon Slayer's manga, you recognize that Demon Slayer manga is not the best art. Like when you compare it up there with anything else that was running in the manga, My Hero, Food Wars, Black Clover, Dr. Stone, One Piece, I would argue almost every single mangaka has better art than Demon Slayer, especially considering this is except for maybe Togashi, and that's just because he doesn't like finishing chapters or writing manga at all. You're never getting any more Hunter x Hunter. I feel like that joke is old as hell, and it is, but it keeps being relevant because he won't just say he's done with the series. He wanted to start a new. You know what? We're not gonna get into it. The point is the question is when you look at anime as a medium and you realize there are so many things that can go into a scene that the manga will never have. When it comes to color, that which I hate, it's funny that's the first thing I go to, but color is literally something that most mangas don't have. Now there are some mangas that get color versions, and there are fans who color manga, but by itself, manga isn't colored. So hell, why do you think one of the most exciting things is when you hear about adaptations of anime, you're like, oh, well, I wonder what the color scheme is for certain characters, because you don't know. One Piece is probably the biggest case of this. You come into this be like, I wonder what color Pei or Ulti had, or what color Yamato's gonna be, and then you're like, oh, that's what they fucking look like. Hell, the closest we get to that is the volume covers, and that's if the character we're interested in is featured on the fucking cover or not. So yeah, animation has color, it has soundtrack, it can set an entirely different move than the manga can, and you realize but even then, that's an interpretation of the manga in retrospect. Like when you think about it, look at something like, I don't know. Let's take the death of Aaron's mother. That's not really a spoiler because it's like the first episode of Attack on Titan. That both has a vibe. It has a vibe no matter which one you're reading. The question is, how horrific is the vibe? Now in the manga, it's first chapter nonsense, so you kind of don't take it that seriously. In the anime, they turn this shit into a real tragedy. And it's still the same scenes for the most part. You're still seeing the Titan pick up the mother, them screaming out, reaching out, crying, and then chomp chomp. Oh look, half your mother's gone, but I don't think this other half is gonna do anything remarkable. And chomp chomp, all gone. Delicioso. That's besides the. But like when you watch the anime of that, the anime episode of that. Oh, I'm going to hell for that one. Delicioso. So much shit. Every time someone gets eaten in anime, delicioso. But when you see that scene animated, that gives off a completely different fucking feel because the music is setting in, and that all banks on whether or not the show has a god tier OST. There are a lot of Shonen Jump shows have god tier OSTs, and I don't really need to talk about Attack on Titan because the first fucking opening, dog. The first opening was mean to death. That is a go. Even if I don't even care for Attack on Titan in terms of reading or watching it, and that opening is goated. There's nothing you can do about that. That opening is goated no matter what you say. I'm just saying. But the music, the slow motion pan shots that you don't get in the manga, you get like a scene. It's a panel. Aaron crying and reaching out for his mother. That's a panel, versus like a scene in the anime where it has to last a couple of seconds. And you get to see the moment linger, the tears flowing from his eyes, his hand reaching out in slow motion, him going, "Oh God, son!" And you just see, and then they pan back to the mother, and the mother's smiling because she's like, "At least my babies are safe." And then it's like, chomp, chomp, and it's like, no! And see the thing is, when you give yourself a moment, when the anime gives itself the moment to like have these scenes, that shit hits like a truck. But it also turns scenes that aren't inherently great into god tier amazing sequences. That's, you know what? I can also use My Hero for as an example. Let's take the Todoroki versus Deku fight. Now, granted, part of this fight's appeal is also because you get Todoroki's backstory in the beginning of it. During it, I mean. Part of the appeal is that you get Todoroki's backstory in the middle of it. But the other part is the fight itself and then the emotional payoff at the end of it, right? And the aftermath. But when you take that fight from the manga to the anime, regardless of the art, the sequence is like, oh, we're punching and I'm punching, and then the explosion happens and the cubes come out. In the manga, it's nowhere near as ridiculous or destructive as that. Because at the end of the day, it's a fist going against a firebomb, and for some reason the anime say, you know what we're about to do? We're about to turn this into motherfucking God. We're about to turn this into absolute Jesus. And everyone in the back was like, they're just two 16-year-olds fighting. We ain't got to do all, boom, motherfucker. Oh, whoa. I didn't know we were going down like that. Y'all didn't tell me we're gonna spend all this fucking time, yo. What kind of, you think we made of money? What the fuck? And you end up getting a sequence that, if you break it down to what it actually is, which is a couple of pump, pump, flick, freeze, flick, freeze, flick, boom, punch, boom. Like, it's not anything crazy. It's not like, even when you read in the manga, no one went, oh wow, that's an amazing fight. Go read that fight in the manga. It's not that crazy. The anime decided, let's take a fight that I think is all right and turn it into absolute god. And now it's one of the most iconic fights in the damn series. Not saying it wouldn't have gotten to that status in general, but the anime just added everything. Fucking through you say run in the background, you dirty bastards. The voice acting, which is god tier. And then the animation say, you know what? We're all right. We're good. But you know, we could do better. It's time to break out the cubes. And they brought out the cubes and... What the fuck was that? What the fuck was that? And I question how many people can go back to their favorite sequences and go objectively if that was a good sequence or not. Not from an animation standpoint, but from a story writing standpoint. Because sometimes I look back at Demon Slayer is the main one that makes me think this. Now, My Hero has its moments, but Demon Slayer really makes me think this. It's a cool show, but I don't think it would be nearly as cool. And some shows are de-elevated because of their animation. The closest thing I can make a reference to is probably One Punch Man and maybe Black Clover. Both shows, primarily One Punch Man's second season, but both shows have really high quality moments that are barred down due to shitty animation. One of my favorite sequences in the manga that is in the anime but is done so visually poorly is during the Elf Invasion arc, where the Black Bulls are riding their base. Don't ask me how that is. And you get this cool chapter of them showing off what they're doing. Oh, they have cannons, and each mage can shoot out an element. So Magna has the fire, Luck has the electricity, Gordon has the poison. And then you finally have your anti-magic cannon in the form of Asta. And in the manga, it looks absolutely gorgeous because Yuki Tsubata draws really fucking well. You get to the anime and you're like, what the fuck is this? What happened to his face? What happened to that quality animation you show off in episode 100, Studio Period? You can animate Naruto like God 90% of the fucking time, but as soon as we get over here to Black Clover, I get this bullshit. And let's be real here, One Punch Season 2 has similar issues with some of its scenes. I'm pretty sure if you're a manga reader for One Punch Man, when you went into Season 2 and you saw certain sequences play out, you went, fuck me, dog. This scene was like God in the manga. Why would you do that? Why would you do that? And it's primarily because the anime can elevate certain scenes into absolute greatness. But it can also devalue the fuck out of scenes so they don't hit as hard. And it all hinges on what studio, what OST, what voice actors you get to sell sequences. Remember, that was Black Clover's biggest issue in the beginning of its run, at least the anime, where people kept complaining about Asta's voice. It tripped, but like... The question, I guess, what I'm really trying to get to is how much can the animation skew your opinion of an episode or a fight or a sequence? And can you then go back to that same sequence and question and go, hey, that sequence wasn't necessarily all that great. It was just elevated through its animation. Because I very much believe if no other show is out, I would say Demon Slayer very much is a show that will benefit purely off of its animation more than any other show. More than My Hero, more than One Piece, more than Bleach. It will literally benefit just because it looks good. And let's be real here, human beings, for the most part, are visual creatures. Especially guys, we are visual creatures. So when you show me something that's goated, it's cubes, it's over. But does that make it a good fight, though? I mean, hell, and it's not like all fights have to be that way in the first place. I mean, some of the better fights are psychological and moral based, but does it make that good? And I guess that's the question. Can a fight can the animation derail your sensibilities when it comes to a fight? And is a fight still good even if it doesn't have has mediocre animation? Yeah, what do you guys think? Leave your thoughts and comments in the comment section below. Thank you guys for watching. There'll be more videos soon. It's been your boy, the Insane Game Freak, Schizomaniacal. Let's the game play to win, and remember, you're not having fun if you're not going a little bit crazy. Ha!